older. It's not happening. That's not the way the world works. In the NFL, when you get older, your numbers dive. That's all there is to it.
Why did you play him for as long as you played him against Dallas if you weren't going to play him this week to break the record? I mean, you left him in that Dallas game forever.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
I know people are getting after Cole Anthony. Folks, it was a bang-bang play. You know, you got to give Cole Anthony props for diving with a loose ball. Yeah, was it a little bit, reckless? Maybe. But at the end of the day, for people to go after Cole Anthony and think this is a dirty play, you don't know ball.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
I remember one time, I don't know if Kenny will remember this, I said put 100 on, I think I left it on a text, put 100 on this horse that won, and then Kenny called me back later and goes, hey, I never got the text. And I'm like,
no.
Oh, yeah. Remember that, Kenny?
I would never stiff anybody. He texted me as they're loading into the gate, maybe, like, it's too late.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
Statement from Giants president John Mara. Joe Shane and Brian Daboll will continue in their respective roles with the organization. As disappointing as the results of the season have been, Steve Tisch and I remain confident in the process that Joe and Brian have implemented.
The Giants, an absolute train wreck, and I love it.
The Early Line, only on Sports.
And welcome in. It's in-game live game day here on a wonderful, wild, I'd like to say warm, but it is not here in New York, that is for sure, Wednesday evening. Scott Wetzel, Dave Sharapan for the next 2 glorious hours, right up until 10 p.m. Eastern time, as we cover, watch, and more importantly, bet on the world of sports. Yes, little college basketball, another great slate after having a good day yesterday, another good one tonight in college hoops. I got NBA, maybe the game of the year. We kind of said that the other day, but this time it really may be the case. Teams with the 2 best records hook it up in Cleveland. Who would have thunk that with OKC and the Cadavers? And then an abbreviated NHL schedule day that got even shorter with all the forest fires in L.A. They canceled the L.A. Kings game, or at least postponed it. So we got 3 hockey games to keep an eye on. So what's going on, my friend? How are you on this Wednesday evening?
I'm good. I'm cold, too. Just so you know, it's the coldest day of the year so far out in Vegas. So if you think it's cold now, all this wind and everything, shout out to all the people in Southern California fighting those fires and the stuff they're doing. It is really, really windy out west. You'll have it in a couple days. And between here and there, it picks up all that cold and all that other stuff. So you'll be ready then. I'm ready tonight. We got a great basketball game, like you said. Cleveland and OKC locked in a really good battle. We'll keep an eye on it in game. I think you could have 10 different bets on the game and have pluses on pretty much all of them, the way they're trading scores back and forth. There's some B-side games there, Brooklyn and Detroit and Philadelphia and Washington. And so, you know, we'll muscle our way through those. I got the Bucks stuff on. I don't have an old school Bucks hat to max out with the, match with the old school Bucks.
I noticed that, yeah.
Jersey, yeah. So it's, my daughters were like, "Are you going to go on and talk to Scott tonight dressed like that?" Yeah, I really like the Bucks. Okay, so there you go. It's a new school Bucks, old school Bucks, all Bucks, short number. So when I saw that number, I'm like, why? Tell me why, please.
Well, I will say the Greek freak, who's really not Greek, might not play. Or if he does, he's limited. He busted his finger last game. Played through it, but then was taken out after 3 quarters. Didn't play the 4th, albeit I think in a blowout win against Toronto. But still, I think they're a little concerned about that. But I will tell you, the trends all say San Antonio. And it's amazing. I had this discussion with people about trends and stuff and who believes in them and who doesn't believe them. I know who does believe in them, and that's the boys in Vegas when they look at these lines. Because otherwise, why in the world would you get the Milwaukee laying only 4.5, maybe 5 against San Antonio, right? Well, Spurs are on fire and the Bucks are not. Ever since the Milwaukee Bucks won that goofy, as I like to call it, President's Cup, the NBA Cup, they've been playing lousy basketball. And they were playing great heading into that game, but much like the Lakers last season, 4-5 straight up, 3-6 against the spread since they won that Cup championship. So, but they did blow out Toronto their last game. Meanwhile, San Antonio against Milwaukee, Dave, 10-2 against the spread their last 12 meetings. Also, they've covered 5 of their last 6 road games. So you got some strong San Antonio trends and some negative Milwaukee Buck trends, hence the small line. But I still I'm with you. I love Milwaukee too. I think this line is way too low now.
Well, again, the Spurs on the first game of this road trip lost that game the other night. We were on. They had a big lead, right? They blew a 19-point lead to the Bulls. So I saw this number this morning, and I went, that's somebody's not playing, and it hasn't moved, which now we were on yesterday, and the Celtics were 5 in the morning. By the time you and I started the show, they were 8.5. They closed 11.5 and won by 12. Now, this thing's not going to move like that because the Spurs are, I don't want to say a good basketball team, but an average basketball team. I still think the number's light. Now, if he don't play, the number's going to be pick. So, as the book, you got to kind of play defense a little bit, which, we'll put up 4.5 or 5 and see what anybody does. It's been sitting there all day, so I don't think anybody knows yet. So, if anybody's watching the show, let us know as soon as you hear it. Matty G's on it. Vinny's on it. If we find out that the Greek freak that's not, what do you say? The Greek freak that's not actually Greek isn't playing.
Right.
The line, we better be grabbing all the Spurs plus 4.5 that we can.
Right. And then we've seen 1,000 times anyway where these teams, Chris Middleton is supposed to play. He's supposed to come back, though, from Milwaukee. So we've seen 1,000 times where these superstar players don't play. And way more times than not, the team seems to rise to the occasion anyway. So, if you find out he's not going to play, you're right. That line will drop. But I got a feeling they end up winning the game and covering anyway. I really do.
Okay. Are you watching any college basketball here at the start? This UConn-Villanova game has been pretty entertaining. That's been a good one. We got 7.5 minutes left, and UConn finally in the lead. Felt like they were trailing a lot of the game. There's this early slate right there. Alabama and South Carolina, pretty good game. Ole Miss and Arkansas. What are you looking at early college baskets?
Pretty good game in the Missouri Valley with Bradley and Drake, too. Drake started the season at 11-0, 12-0, something goofy like that, but they've lost their last 2, and now they're playing at Bradley, which is 13-1 or so. So I had the best 2 teams in the Missouri Valley. They're tied at 31, early second half. Got a game for you later on with Kansas. Would you believe the Kansas Jayhawks are the number 1 under team, Dave, in college basketball? 13-1 under. They've only had 1 under game all year. They're hosting Arizona State, halfway decent team, nothing crazy. Kansas a monster favorite. 143.5 is your total, which is a pretty, normal total for a college basketball game. So you're still like most people like the Dookie Pukey, same thing, right? You think Duke, you think Kansas, I got to bet the over, right? So, but they're both under teams. Not Duke isn't as strong as Kansas is, but they're much more unders than overs. But they don't really adjust the lines because people just still bet the over because they think it's Kansas, it's over, they're at home, right? But that's not really been the case. So
it's funny,
7-1 under even at home.
You look at that championship winner graphic right there, and Kansas is noticeably missing from that.
Yes.
What? Right? Like, is it that quick that? I mean, they're 10-3, which is good for right now, 7th in the Big 12. Are they not a real threat to win a national championship in your eyes?
Yeah, they're Kansas. I've been told they're 25-1. They're Kansas, right? They're a threat. By the end of the season, I'm sure they'll have things all kind of figured out. They've lost some games this year, and a couple at home where they haven't played well. So I don't know if this is necessarily a prototypical Kansas team. College basketball this year is so balanced, though. We saw it last night in the SEC. Well, I tell you, you look at the SEC, Dave, they could put like 15 teams in the NCAA tournament. I mean, every single one of them is 12-1, 13-2, 12-2. I mean, it's crazy when you think about how good the SEC, and we all think the SEC in football, right? But basketball is really dominant as well.
Yeah, well, they're going to make up for only getting, a couple teams in the football, right? They'll get theirs, but they've earned it. Yes, it's been not only good amongst each other, but they've been dominating other conferences when they play out of conference games. So they will. Yeah. I don't even know if that's available, but it probably is in some books in certain places that which conference will
to win
most teams in. Yeah. Or pick the conference that's going to win a national championship. But the SEC is going to get the most teams in. And usually that's Big 12 territory. There's been years where it's been the Big 10. But no, it's going to be SEC, most teams in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I would think for sure. You look at the I know we got to take a break here real quickly. Where are you, SEC? To Papa. All right. How many teams are ranked? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams are ranked. And that doesn't even include Georgia, which knocked off Kentucky last night, which figures to be ranked next week. Crazy conference. All right, in-game live, game day continues on the grid.
This was a team that you should have dominated. You've now lost 4 straight. You're heading into the playoffs and you're searching for answers, not just in terms of your offensive line, but your quarterback now.
I just don't see this team peaking at the right time. It was almost like we were anointing Mike Tomlin as the best coach in the NFL 12 or 13 weeks in. Then once they got to the real competition and the attrition started to settle in, it's just not a good football team.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
It's going to be copy-paste. Books up, not good. Win total's a tick too low. Knock it right over. Make playoff price tick too juicy. Bang it out. Postseason comes around on a tee. Knock their heads off.
I don't think the Steelers organization just makes a move to make a move. They have to have, it's like being in the book. You have to know what you're going to move the line to.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Statement from Giants president John Mara. Joe Shane and Brian Daboll will continue in their respective roles with the organization. As disappointing as the results of the season have been, Steve Tisch and I remain confident in the process that Joe and Brian have implemented.
The Giants, an absolute train wreck, and I love it.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid. Just 3 games left in this historic college football season. Thursday, Notre Dame.
Notre Dame is definitely one of the top teams in the nation.
Clash with Penn State. Friday, Ohio State looks to slow down the Horns, with the Buckeyes favored to top Texas.
You know what I see? 2 similar plays? Jackpot, cherry.
Follow along for every play and every bet with in-game live game day, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back in-game live, game day here on the grid. Scott and Dave just getting underway. Hour number 1 of our 2-hour extravaganza. So a little college basketball tonight. We got the little NBA. We got the headline game, Cleveland and OKC. We got a few hockey games that are underway as well. So enough to keep us busy, that is for sure. We'll touch on the NBA. So at the half, Cleveland leads OKC 62-59. Cadaver's opened up as a 2.5-point favorite, up to 3.5 now. I don't think any team, Dave, I know you can find that out, I think at the end of the game. I don't know about in-game that you have that number, but I don't think any team's led by more. Cleveland jumped out to a 6-0 lead. I think that was their high water mark, and I think OKC had a 4-point lead. But this has been this is at the NBA at its best, right? Two best teams. Playing well. It's a competitive game. Doesn't look like it's going to be a blowout. So pretty good betting game when you think about it. But other times you think, no, to make it a real good in-game live bet, you need runs. You need teams to go up 10 or 11, jump that line up to 8.5. But if it's going to stay a 4, 5, 6-point game, you're not going to get that much fluctuation in the point spread.
No, you're not, and you're going to have to go back and forth. It says right here the biggest lead for OKC was 9. You were correct. The biggest lead for Cleveland was 6. Everything looks very, very close. It's almost like what that Spider-Man meme. 23 of 47 for OKC from the field, 22 of 45 for Cleveland. They both hit 6 of 17 threes. The only difference is the points in the paint, 30 to 22 for Cleveland, and second chance points, 14 to 6. So, I mean, it's a dead even game except for a couple second chances, it looks and sounds like. I got the game on. The pace was great. The crowd is into it. We will definitely be keeping an eye on this one, looking to maybe jump in. The in-game total is 233.5. It closed 231.5. So good job by the odds makers, at least through the first half. The game closed 3. It's sitting 3, and it's 1 point off the total. So nice work.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Not bad. We got our favorite whipping boys back in action. The Washington Wizards already down 11 at halftime against Philadelphia.
What are you doing?
That was, I love these games. I love these games. That was the line to start the game. You want to lay 14.5 with Philadelphia. 59-48, up 11, 215.5 is your total. Washington just stinks. I mean, they are just the worst of the worst.
Lost 13
somehow they beat
straight.
Charlotte twice 2 weeks ago,
Right?
back to back. But between them and Charlotte both, you know what? I'd lay the 14.5. I kicked myself because I didn't get a chance to put the 11.5 in. But
right,
I like 14.5 knowing my team's already up 11.
I certainly don't think it's enough points to take the Wizards. We've been there before, and we're going to be there the rest of the way on the season. We're going to look for reasons to take points. It's not enough. I think 20 is going to be the number where maybe we could look to buy in on the Wiz tonight. It's not like the Sixers are going to score a ton of points. In-game total is 215.5, and it closed 220, 221. So it's actually below pace thanks to the Wizards. Yeah. No, not enough points for me for the Wizards. Not here.
Yeah, not enough. Same thing. How about 20.5? Check that. They're leading by 20. How about 15.5 for Indiana? 6-point spread to start. They're blowing out the Bulls 68-48. Indiana playing a little bit better of late. I actually like the pace. I think this is going to be a blowout from start to finish. I think I would take Indiana laying the 15.5.
I certainly wouldn't take the dog. We might wait for it to get down a little bit more, maybe lay 12.5, something like that. But yeah, this has it already is a blowout. And yes, they're probably going to extend the lead. The in-game total, I got 235.5, 236.5. It keeps changing. I don't think the Bulls are going to be a willing participant in the game. This one, you got to be careful when you lay up big numbers like that. Make sure that they're going to carry this thing at least all the way through the third quarter. We're only 2 minutes into it. So as they continue to extend, they just hit another 3, 73-48. It's up to 20.5 right now. So we talked it into an existence, and bam, now it's over 20.
You know, there's good and bad news about the NBA right around now, and NHL as well. You know, the good news is that you've had 2 months now, 3 months 2.5 months, whatever it is. You got a good read on teams, and you think you know the teams a lot better, right? But so does the boys in Vegas. And I say that just because these point spreads are just like, man, it is tough in the NBA, especially. Even the Knicks, they were double-digit favorites. I know, and they're winning 41-32 early second quarter, but you got to lay 14.5. I mean, it's tough laying 15 points in an NBA game, even though a lot of them turn out to be blowouts, whereas hockey, they kind of go back to the pack and end up being one-goal games. NBA, you do get a lot of blowouts, but, who the hell wants to lay 14.5 points in some of these games? I mean, we're getting so many double-digit spreads already.
It's, I think, a little bit of a reaction as well to the end of football. And this was the best year in 20 years for the favorites in the NFL.
Yeah.
FanDuel put out a report to its investors about this was the most customer-friendly year in American football in 20 years. And they have to temper their expectations and like that after those quarter results. So I think you're going to see a little more aggressiveness in the NBA with the favorites. Like you said, the guys in Vegas know who the bad teams are. And if you're going to bet against them, and you're going to parlay them together, you're going to lay a couple extra points. There's the summary right there for the, the Cavs and the OKC Thunder, 62-59 at the half. Sitting pretty strong game. I mean, Scott, how much do you want to see the result of this game? Do you think it affects the futures at all?
Good question. I don't think any. I don't think any, especially if it's a close game. Yeah, I got it. We'll talk more about it when we come back.
This was a team that you should have dominated. You've now lost 4 straight. You're heading into the playoffs and you're searching for answers, not just in terms of your offensive line, but your quarterback now.
I just don't see this team peaking at the right time. It was almost like we were anointing Mike Tomlin as the best coach in the NFL 12 or 13 weeks in. Then once they got to the real competition and the attrition started to settle in, it's just not a good football team.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
It's going to be copy-paste. Books up, not good. Win total's a tick too low. Knock it right over. Make playoff price tick too juicy. Bang it out. Postseason comes around on a tee. Knock their heads off.
I don't think the Steelers organization just makes a move to make a move. They have to have, it's like being in the book. You have to know what you're going to move the line to.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Statement from Giants President John Mara. Joe Shane and Brian Daboll will continue in their respective roles with the organization. As disappointing as the results of the season have been, Steve Tisch and I remain confident in the process that Joe and Brian have implemented.
The Giants, an absolute train wreck, and I love it.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid. Just 3 games left in this historic college football season. Thursday, Notre Dame.
Notre Dame is definitely one of the top teams in the nation.
Clash with Penn State. Friday, Ohio State looks to slow down the Horns, with the Buckeyes favored to top Texas.
You know what I see? 2 similar plays. Jackpot, cherry.
Follow along for every play and every bet with in-game live game day, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back. In-game live game day here on the grid. We know what time it is. 24 past the hour. Time for a little SGP same game parlay time. All right, we're going to head out on the ice for the first time tonight. Talk a little pucks here with our SGP. We only got 3 games, one that's yet to get underway. That is our Florida Panthers versus the Utah Utes Hockey Club, whatever they're calling themselves these days. Don't quite get this line, but we're going to buy into it anyway. 4-legger here. We'll take Florida minus the 156 or so, depending on where you do your shopping, obviously. I know they're on the road. But Utah's not playing well. They lost a ton of games, 5 of their last 6. Florida's lost 4 of 6 as well. But it's still the Florida Panthers, second most points, in the Metropolitan Division. So give me Florida to start. I'm going to go over 5.5. Florida, Utah. I think we're going to get some goals tonight. Give me Sam Reinhart a goal for Florida plus 155. He leads the team in goals. Nice little number there. And then give me Carter Verhaeghe for 1 point. He's like one of the top 2-3 guys points-wise for the Florida Panthers. Minus 130 on that one. So I think this has got 6-2 Florida Panthers written all over it. Add it all up, and we're turning a 150 or so a favorite into a 5.5 to 1 SGP same-game parlay. What do you think?
Okay. Verhaeghe has 29, what does that say? 29 points. Okay. You worried about the total at all? I was leaning under when I saw this today because Utah has really been struggling to score goals.
Yeah.
So that's like this might be 4-1 is when I looked at it, I said, how can we get there with the total under? And I looked at the Edmonton game yesterday with Boston and thought 4-1. It ended up being 4-0. I'm thinking the same thing today with this game. So that's my hesitation for you. I'm with you. I think Florida wins, and I like the plus price to get a goal from Sam. So that's the only ones. I worry about the total a little bit for you.
Yeah. I don't like going under in a 5.5. I do it, don't get me wrong, but, generally if I'm just like it's a toss-up, I give it the over. 6.5, yeah, if then it's 4-2, then you're a winner. But, hard to shut out. I know Edmonton did it last night with Boston, which is weird, but I'm thinking Utah at home is good for a couple of goals. So
okay.
I hate to have them jump out to a 2-0 lead, then all of a sudden I'm screwed. So give me the over, maybe some empty netters, something goofy. But, yeah, 5.5s are so low. It's just like, wow. You could have like 3 goals and heading into the third period and you still get an over,
Yeah.
So,
I like the unders. Again, that's just from my life in this space, in this world. Last night, we got this Black Cloud play tonight coming up at the bottom of this, or at the top of the hour, coming up last segment, first hour. That got home yesterday with the with Golden Knights. That was a good play. Yesterday's same game parlay went completely haywire when the Golden State Warriors. What was that last night? I want to ask Gil when he comes on, maybe stuff like that. Like that was really unforeseen. You had a dead tired Miami Heat team without Butler and all this other stuff. They smoked them.
Yeah, and smoked them. Go figure the NBA, man. The NBA is tough. I followed this for a couple of days now, and teams that play 3 games in 4 nights the last week or so have been like on fire. The team that should be losing and not covering has a better against the spread record than the other team. It makes no sense. I mean, and not only did Golden State lose last night, they got crushed, as you said, Dave. It wasn't even close. No, I mean, the days of, with Golden State, I brought this up on the podcast. I know there's always been a little buzz here lately anyway. LeBron, going to Golden State. But I wonder, would Golden State ever trade Steph Curry? And what could you get for Steph if you really wanted to strip it all down and just say, what, we're done. We're done. What would the Knicks give up? What would, you got to get as like a star player you would think in return, but
trade
those
Steph?
trades are tough. Trade Steph.
No.
And you can have dopey Draymond with him if you want. We'll throw him in as
Big G that. Ask Big G that when he comes on that.
We will ask him when he comes next, right here on the Grid.
This was a team that you should have dominated. You've now lost 4 straight. You're heading into the playoffs and you're searching for answers, not just in terms of your offensive line, but your quarterback now.
I just don't see this team peaking at the right time. It was almost like we were anointing Mike Tomlin as the best coach in the NFL 12 or 13 weeks in. Then once they got to the real competition and the attrition started to settle in, it's just not a good football team.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
It's going to be copy-paste. Books up, not good. Win total's a tick too low. Knock it right over. Make playoff price tick too juicy. Bang it out. Postseason comes around on a tee. Knock their heads off.
I don't think the Steelers organization just makes a move to make a move. They have to have, it's like being in the book. You have to know what you're going to move the line to.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Statement from Giants president John Mara. Joe Shane and Brian Daboll will continue in their respective roles with the organization. As disappointing as the results of the season have been, Steve Tisch and I remain confident in the process that Joe and Brian have implemented.
The Giants, an absolute train wreck, and I love it.
The early line, only on SportsGrid. Just 3 games left in this historic college football season. Thursday, Notre Dame.
Notre Dame is definitely one of the top teams in the nation.
Clash with Penn State. Friday, Ohio State looks to slow down the Horns, with the Buckeyes favored to top Texas.
You know what I see? 2 similar plays? Jackpot, cherry.
Follow along for every play and every bet with in-game live game day, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Live, Game Day here on the Grid. Scott and Dave for another hour and a half or so. Taking a look at the NBA. Brought up an interesting question. I think so, because I'm the one that brought it up. So let us bring in our expert in the NBA to get his thoughts on how crazy the notion is. One, Gilbert McGregor, NBA sound system voice for Canada, and NBA content writer for Sporting News, old stomping grounds many moons ago for me. So, Gilbert, what's going on, my friend? I brought up, just kind of throwing it out there after watching my money disappear last night, betting on the Golden State Warriors. Thank you very much. Is it possible, forget about LeBron or anyone else going to Golden State, is it possible, Gilbert, that the Warriors finally just say, you know what, our run is finally done. Let's move Steph. Let's get a couple first-round draft choices for him, and just, turn towards the future?
People say never, and about Steph Curry leaving Golden State or being moved from Golden State, I used to think that it would never happen. But looking at his body language, looking how frustrated he was with what was going on, it might get to a breaking point. And he's done so much for that franchise. It would all depend on him saying, hey, look, I don't want to do this anymore. They are going to try and get as much out of the situation until he says, I don't want to do this anymore. And I don't see him saying that yet. I don't see them saying, hey, we need to move Steph Curry. But I could see a timeline in which Steph Curry's frustrations just rise to a point where he's like, look, I'm done. There's nothing else you can do to put a winner around me. I'm one of the greatest of all time. I have 2 or 3 years left of shooting and be playing at this level. Do something. But until then, they're going to try to figure out how to make it work. I just don't know if there's anything they can do at this point.
Great to see you, Big G. Happy New Year.
Same to you.
Couple things we got to talk about. I'm wearing the Bucks stuff, old school, new school, Bucks, this, that, whatever. They're playing the Spurs tonight, who have been a pretty entertaining team and kind of surprising as far as like making the numbers and watching the numbers and things like that. All right. We got a lot of question marks with the Bucks. They started out bad. They win the cup thing here in Vegas, and now they got mediocre again. I looked at this number this morning and I went, boy, the Bucks should be a bigger favorite. What is going on with the Bucks? Like the rotation and the things like this, Middleton back in. Well, they seem like more of a mess from the outside. What do you see when you see the Milwaukee Bucks?
Milwaukee seems like a team right now, from my vantage point, that they have more questions than answers. And as soon as they answer one of those questions, it just brings about more questions. Like today, we find out that they're going to move Chris Middleton to the second unit full time. And that could answer a question that they had. But now what's going to happen with their starting lineup? I think that they're a team who's figuring it out on the fly. They're an older team. They have a lot of guys who, because they're older, they're dealing with bumps and bruises. And sometimes bumps and bruises for a 34, 35-year-old player sits you aside for a while. And I think that they have a weird balance, trying to install new stuff with Doc Rivers, having his first full season, having a training camp with his team after joining midway through the year last year, obviously having a player like Giannis, who's 30 in the prime of his career, playing at an MVP level. So there's just so many different things going on with this Bucks team. It's kind of hard to figure out what they are and who they are, but the bottom line is they have Giannis on their team, and when he's healthy, you always have a chance to win a game when you have a top 2 player in the NBA on your team.
Mm-hmm. Miami Heat thought they had that guy in Jimmy Butler, Gilbert, but apparently that connection, that is one trade that's going to happen. Where's he going to end up?
It kind of feels like they want all roads to lead to Phoenix. It seems like he wants to be a Sun and the Suns want him, but unfortunately, or fortunately from him, he's a guy who makes $48 million a year. And because he makes $48 million a year, he's not an easy person to make the money match for. I know Phoenix can move Bradley Beal, except Bradley Beal has a no trade clause in his contract. So that is a big wrench in those plans for both parties. Seems like Jimmy Butler's representation is telling teams to not trade for him. So Memphis might have been an intriguing destination, but they were told to stay away. Milwaukee also was told to stay away. So it kind of feels like they're trying to angle toward making something happen to the Suns. But unfortunately for him, the Heat are going to do what's best for the Heat at the end of the day. So I think that there will be some teams that maybe kind of poke their head in. I think the longer that Jimmy Butler is frustrated with the situation and wants a new situation, he might be willing to go other places. But I think for right now, they're going to try to make something happen with the Suns. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Rockets or the Mavericks get involved. He is a Houston native, so he could go back home or go back home to Texas and make something like that happen. But the money makes it an interesting thing, and the Heat being the type of dealers they are on the trade market, they're going to try to find an advantageous deal. So they're going to take their time with this.
Speaking of going home, Kawhi got to Denver and left and went back home because of the fires and everything going on. What is going on? I've been waiting for the Clippers to just do it. Whatever it is. They got this beautiful new building. They got all new uniforms. They got all this stuff going on. And every time you think, oh, yeah, they're getting right. This is the time. They're gonna make that push in the West. What do you make of the Clippers and Kawhi and everything going on out there?
Yeah, first heart goes out to everything going out in LA. My co-host actually from the podcast is living out in that area. So I've been checking in, and it seems like a pretty wild situation. But as far as the Clippers go, it's one of these teams, like you said, like I've been waiting to see the full product for a long time. Obviously, it's a new era now that Paul George is gone and they've moved on, and Norman Powell has played really great basketball. They brought Jeff Van Gundy in, and they have a clear identity there, a pesky team that plays defensively, and they really make you work for it any given night. And I think they always have a chance. Obviously, in the NBA, you need to have a guy. You need to have a star, and that's who Kawhi Leonard still might be. We haven't seen it long enough, and obviously he missed so much time to start the season. Can he round back into that shape by March and April? Because if he can, I think that the Clippers can be a sneaky team, but he needs a long enough runway to be that guy. So I'm looking at them as a team that has a clear identity. They have star power with Kawhi Leonard and an older James Harden. And again, Norman Powell stepping up. Ivica Zubac's playing really well this year. So if I was a team in the Western Conference, I would not want to see the Clippers in the first round of playoffs so long as they get everything together by March or April.
Mm-hmm. Great game going on here, Gilbert. OKC, Cleveland, two best teams record-wise in the NBA. Does the outcome tonight influence you? I'll ask a question Dave asked me as far as who you think is going to win, the NBA championship. And do you even think either one of these two teams will be in the NBA Finals?
I still think it's Boston coming out of the East until I'm proven wrong there. They just seem like a team that's too difficult to beat 4 times in 7 games. But with every win and every statement that each of these teams is making, I'm swayed a little bit more. The Thunder have been really impressive this 15-game win streak. We won't count that loss in the NBA Cup championship because technically it doesn't count. But they've gotten wins over the Celtics and wins over the Knicks, and they've proven themselves over and over again. They have a guy in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So I trust them a little more because they've been there before. They were a few steps short last year, and they kind of know what it takes. The Cavs are still proving themselves. I think new head coach, still a young team with Evan Mobley making the leap. How sustainable is that when the playoffs come around? So I do believe in these teams, but they need to show me a little more as the season goes on. But I definitely won't scoff at the fact that both of them are on 70-win paces right now at this point in the season.
I was going to say, man, the Cavs are 31-4. Gee, what more they got to prove to you? That's a pretty good basketball team, right? That's a tough look. You got 30 seconds. Go to the college. Tennessee got blown out yesterday by 30. Smoke. Who's the best team in college basketball in your eyes?
I mean, after last night, I got to say the Florida Gators. They are a tough basketball team to beat number 1 by 30 points. I know it was at home, but I've seen a lot from Florida this year. They check a lot of boxes, so they're doing something good down there in Gainesville.
Gilbert, great job, man. Appreciate it. Do it again soon. Best of luck, and then have some fun over the next couple of months for sure.
Stay warm.
NBA and college basketball.
I'm going to try.
Thanks, Gilbert.
So my team didn't win this weekend, but I still did with this app that's taking over the game. Sports Millions Pick'em lets you make quick and easy predictions. Pick your favorite players, go higher or lower, and you can still win big even if your team loses. Plus, the multiplier is insane. With just a few picks, you can win big money. So get on it. They've got a welcome bonus to help you start off your winning streak.
He will never repeat this year again as he gets older. It's not happening. That's not the way the world works. In the NFL, when you get older, your numbers dive. That's all there is to it.
Why did you play him for as long as you played him against Dallas if you weren't going to play him this week to break the record? I mean, you left him in that Dallas game forever.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
I know people are getting after Cole Anthony. Folks, it was a bang-bang play. You know, you got to give Cole Anthony props for diving on a loose ball. Yeah, was it a little bit, reckless? Maybe. But at the end of the day, for people to go after Cole Anthony and think this is a dirty play, you don't know ball.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
I remember one time, I don't know if Kenny will remember this, I said put 100 on, I think I left it on a text. Put 100 on this horse that won, and then Kenny called me back later and goes, hey, I never got the text. And I'm like,
no.
Oh, yeah. Remember that, Kenny?
I would never stiff anybody. He texted me as they're loading into the gate, maybe. Like, it's too late.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
Statement from Giants president John Mara. Joe Shane and Brian Daboll will continue in their respective roles with the organization. As disappointing as the results of the season have been, Steve Tisch and I remain confident in the process that Joe and Brian have implemented.
The Giants, an absolute train wreck, and I love it.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back in Game Live, Game Day here on the grid. So, taking out a little NBA since we were talking to Gilbert from Sporting News. Check out his stuff at Sporting News. 89-84. Cleveland now leads OKC. But it's been back and forth, 2-3 point game. That's the biggest lead I've seen here in a little while. But the Cadavers up 5, laying 4.5. They're not going to give you much because it's been a close game the whole way. Minus 250 money line. Maybe take a little flyer on OKC at plus 190 money line right now. There's 2-1 now. Over under 254.5. How about that? We're at 173 points with 5 minutes left to go in the third. 255.5. That's actually not a bad number. I tell you what, you're going to get to 200. That's basically a 50-point fourth quarter. They seem to think that things are going to slow down here in the fourth quarter, Dave. I don't know. I might go over on that one, believe it or not.
I'm trying to think it in my head. I think maybe, it might not be the peak, right? We're looking, when you and I do the show, a lot of times we're looking for the peak. Either the peak bottom and go over, or the peak top and go under. I don't think we've reached it yet. I think you could go over. That's a lot of points.
Yeah. There's a lot of points. They're going up and down the court. I mean, if this was an NBA Finals, you're not going to get much defense here. Although not as many threes, right? I mean, at least not at halftime. Let me check the three amount. I mean, it's an NBA game, so you're going to get a bunch, but it's not like they were shooting
Both teams
50,
were 6 or 17.
Yeah, that wasn't too bad, No. 17 threes. I'm used to watching the Celtics, who throw up 60 a game. 22 threes for OKC and 24 for Cleveland. They're on pace for about 30-35, I guess.
Your New York Knickerbockers are up 4 at the half, 55-51. They're only 9.5-point favorites against Toronto. Shorter number than it closed pregame. Is it time?
Yeah.
Might be time. All you got to do is win by double digits at this point, right?
Yeah.
That's one you can look at. Toronto's one of those teams. This is one of the hardest things to do in the book. Like, when you're working in the book or your odds makers, the good team thing is easy. Like coming up with a number for Cleveland and OKC, it's either 2.5 or 3. Maybe it could be 3.5. It'd be too high at 4. It'd be too low at 2. Simple. How do you make a number tonight when you go, Knicks Raptors at home, right? I ask you, you say 15.5. I ask Matty G, and he says, 10.5. You ask Vinny, he might say 18.5. And then ask me, I'm going to be, 14, 15, somewhere in that neighborhood. So you got to you get a lot more variance. That's one of the hardest things to do. And I mean, we're doing it every night in game, is trying to figure out that number on that bad team. There's a lot of games where it goes, whoo, the runs. I mean, we've seen it now this season alone. I mean, just this new year, we've only done the shows this week. 28.5, 30.5 in a basketball game. Doesn't make sense, but we see those big numbers.
And how bad is Toronto, you may be asking, folks? Well, how about this? They're 1-13 their last 14 games overall. They're 1-18 their last 19 road games. How about, it's not just a bad streak. They're 10-47 their last 57 games. Like, they are very quietly one of the worst teams in the NBA. They really are. That's just it. Now, the Knicks are 19-7 their last 26 games. They've been playing great. They're at home. I mean, there's a reason why they were double-digit favorites starting this game. I mean, they really should destroy Toronto, which got blown out by Milwaukee the other day, 2 nights ago, at home. Yeah. So that 9.5 right now might be the lowest number you get. Unless you want to bank on Toronto coming out flying second half, but I would be more inclined to think the Knicks would come out flying, right?
Yeah, after what you just said, it's one of those ones where probably the Knicks go in the locker room like, all right, guys, let's go.
What are we doing?
They can recite all the stats. Maybe they're watching the show like our guy, Mr. Anderson. He's watching the show and tweeting at us right now. Let's put the pedal down. Let's get this thing to double digits and get out of here with a nice 15-point smooth win. I don't know. The Sixers are up 15 right now, a minute and a half left in the third. That number's only 12.5. It's weird to say only 12.5, but another bad team, historically bad team, the Wizards. JY, called them yesterday the Generals. For those of you that don't know, the Generals were the team that the Harlem Globetrotters have beaten for, 100 years? I think the Generals have one win in all that time, something like that. Just got an alert from our guy, Matty G, behind the scenes. Did you see it? Villanova upset UConn. It's over.
Really?
So Villanova,
at home.
Yeah, it closed as a favorite. So in all fairness, I don't know if it's an upset, but they opened up as a dog today, 1-point dog, closes 1.5, 2-point favorite. They win 68-66, 2-point victory for Villanova Wildcats. So, wow, UConn showed some, they had injuries tonight. So
they nearly lost against Providence the other day at home.
Right? That's right. Yeah. So college basketball, hard to win on the road. Really, really hard to win on the road, unless you were like Arizona last night, who won at West Virginia.
Oh, yeah.
Huge.
Crushed them.
Destroyed them, yeah.
You know who I like tonight? College basketball? Who? Florida State. I heard our boy Scotty this afternoon say he'd like them as well. I'm like, yeah, you know what? You're right. The Florida State they're beating Miami by 20. 6 minutes left. Florida State is 10-4. Miami is 4-10. Miami just stinks. I mean, this team went to the Final Four not that long ago. But Larinaga quit. And that's been it for Miami basketball, boy. It has been they are awful. And that was 1.5 today, Dave. Florida State was 1.5-point favorite only. So,
kind of gives me a breath of relief knowing I don't have to make those numbers for the college basketball right now. It's getting tough.
Good luck with that.
This was a team that you should have dominated. You've now lost 4 straight. You're heading into the playoffs, and you're searching for answers, not just in terms of your offensive line, but your quarterback now.
I just don't see this team peaking at the right time. It was almost like we were anointing Mike Tomlin as the best coach in the NFL 12 or 13 weeks in. Then once they got to the real competition and the attrition started to settle in, it's just not a good football team.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
It's going to be copy-paste. Books up, not good. Win total's a tick too low. Knock it right over. Make playoff price tick too juicy. Bang it out. Postseason comes around on a tee. Knock their heads off.
I don't think the Steelers organization just makes a move to make a move. They have to have, it's like being in the book. You have to know what you're going to move the line to.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Statement from Giants president John Mara. Joe Shane and Brian Daboll will continue in their respective roles with the organization. As disappointing as the results of the season have been, Steve Tisch and I remain confident in the process that Joe and Brian have implemented.
The Giants, an absolute train wreck, and I love it.
The early line, only on SportsGrid. Just 3 games left in this historic college football season. Thursday, Notre Dame.
Notre Dame is definitely one of the top teams in the nation.
Clash with Penn State. Friday, Ohio State looks to slow down the Horns, with the Buckeyes favored to top Texas.
You know what I see? 2 similar plays? Jackpot, cherry. Come on, nimble for a big man.
Follow along for every play and every bet with in-game live game day, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Live. Game Day here on the grid, closing out hour number 1 of our 2-hour extravaganza with, as we always do, our Black Cloud Play of the Day. All right, I had a couple of things planned for this one, including the LA Kings, but that game got postponed. So we're going to switch over to one of our favorite underplays in the college basketball world, and that is the Virginia Cavaliers. They're taking on California tonight, and you got a decent number of 130.5. You don't get too many 130s in Virginia games. They're 8-6 under this year, which, really is not a great number, but most, if not all of those, have been in the 120s. Now we're getting 130. Virginia stinks this season, basically, as well. So it's a combination of them wanting to slow it down, and they couldn't hit the broadside of the barn with a shot anyway. So I don't think this gets to 130. I think Cal wins in the, 70 to 55, 65. Probably not even 70. Probably like 65, 55 range, around 120 or so. So Black Cloud can't lose. Virginia under with Cal 130.5.
This is proof again that gambling can sometimes make a game interesting, because I was scrolling through the board and I saw that the hockey game was canceled late. So I said, all right, maybe Wetzel will do something with the Arizona State-Kansas game. I was going to throw it out there, maybe Penn State, Illinois, something like that. And, who knows, maybe South Dakota State and St. Thomas. I was going to even try to get you to say something about that. But I saw the total of this one. This might be the lowest total of the night on the whole board pregame. Yeah. So it's perfect that you went under this game. Let's keep the Black Cloud rolling. We got a big weekend to lead into. I know my kids are getting ready to go back to Jersey this weekend. Your kids are getting ready next week. Kids need cash. You got to get the car fixed. Make sure it has all the antifreeze in it. Good wipers. Very important that wipers are good.
Very.
In the winter.
Yes.
Can't stress that to the kids enough. Wipers got to be good in the winter. Summer, you can figure it out. Wipers got to be good in the winter. So maybe we wipe the board clean with this one. I think this one actually may go down before the game tips. It doesn't start till 8 o'clock Pacific, 11 o'clock Eastern, late night. This one may end up down around 127.5, 128 by the time the game tips.
Okay. I'll take that. Yeah. I'll take that. Absolutely. Keep going down. Yeah. So, got burned again by dopey St. Mary. This St. Mary's team is going to give me agita before the end of the season. They did it again. Son of a bees, they did it again. Just like their last game, on pace, way under, not even close, not a sweat, right? The whole thing. And just like last game, here come all the points with the subs. And all of a sudden, the team that crawls the ball up the court with the subs is running and gunning. And he's not calling, the key is you get a lot of guys, you're up 20 as they were, 25, whatever it was, with 5 minutes left. All right, you call out the dogs, you walk the ball up the court, and maybe you take a shot in the final 2, 3, 4 seconds of your shot clock, right? Not St. Mary's that does that normally. With the subs, they're running and gunning and hoisting threes, driving the layups, fouls, and again, just like 2 nights ago, I got a dude at the free throw line. I got 1 point to give, right? 5 seconds left for whoever they were playing. I forget who they were playing. Hits the first free throw. I'm like, just miss one, please. Just miss one, please. He makes the second free throw, and the game goes over by 1 again.
Very important to make your free throws. You know that. You're an official. You're out there with those kids. You got to tell them make your free throws. He made his free throw. Yeah. Loyola Marymount, 81 to 56. St. Mary's wins. So that was
they scored the second half. How much?
I don't even want to tell you. A combined 83 points. St. Mary's had 51 points in the second half after scoring 30 in the first. Yeah. Combined, they scored 54 in the first half and 83 in the second half.
How is that possible? How is that possible?
That's ugly.
I mean, what are you doing? You got the lead by walking the ball up the court. That's what you do. You can't spell walk without St. Mary's in it. And all of a sudden,
Right.
it's second half, second straight game. Second straight game.
This was a team that you should have dominated. You've now lost 4 straight. You're heading into the playoffs and you're searching for answers, not just in terms of your offensive line, but your quarterback now.
I just don't see this team peaking at the right time. It was almost like we were anointing Mike Tomlin as the best coach in the NFL 12 or 13 weeks in. Then once they got to the real competition and the attrition started to settle in, it's just not a good football team.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
It's going to be copy-paste. Books are, not good. Win total's a tick too low. Knock it right over. Make playoff price tick too juicy. Bang it out. Postseason comes around on a tee. Knock their heads off.
I don't think the Steelers organization just makes a move to make a move. They have to have, it's like being in the book. You have to know what you're going to move the line to.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Statement from Giants president John Mara. Joe Shane and Brian Daboll will continue in their respective roles with the organization. As disappointing as the results of the season have been, Steve Tisch and I remain confident in the process that Joe and Brian have implemented.
The Giants, an absolute train wreck, and I love it.
The early line, only on SportsGrid. Just 3 games left in this historic college football season. Thursday, Notre Dame.
Notre Dame is definitely one of the top teams in the nation.
Clash with Penn State. Friday, Ohio State looks to slow down the Horns, with the Buckeyes favored to top Texas.
You know what I see? 2 similar plays? Jackpot. Cherry.
Follow along for every play and every bet with in-game live game day, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Live, Game Day here on the grid. Hour number 2 of our 3-hour extravaganza. Scott, or 2-hour, what am I saying? 2-hour extravaganza. Scott and Dave until 10 p.m. Eastern.
Added an hour?
Little Freudian,
Come on.
Freudian slip there, boy.
Right.
So, preview a little college football today. We'll do that before we're through, since Dave and I aren't on. We got Joe Bann. She'll come on in a little bit. We'll do a little hockey with her, a little college football with her. We got Cam Stewart coming on in about 45 minutes or so. Taking a peek at the defense has finally kicked in, I will say, with the Cleveland and OKC, 106-105. I think they've scored 2 points, literally 2 or 3 points only in the fourth quarter, and 2 minutes and 30 seconds have elapsed. So the over-under is still at 256.5. It was up to 259.5, and I even saw a peak at like 260.5. So we were right about it's got to go higher than 251. It definitely went higher than that. Do want to ask you, Dave, about the NFL here, because we have the forest fires here going on in Los Angeles, and there's some talk here now that the game, even though it's being played Monday, which is still a solid 4 days from now, but if they can't clear out the air and it's uncomfortable and this, that, what have you, they move it. Where is that line going? Because it's built in that the Rams are the home team. They go to Arizona, which is the site that the NFL said today that's where they would play. I'm seeing if it's on the board. So Minnesota's a 1.5-point road favorite at L.A. What do you think that would jump to if that game was being played in Arizona, where you'll still have a lot of Rams fans, but not nearly as many, obviously?
Oh, yeah, no, it's going to be a drastically different crowd. And, I mean, it's moving now to the point where there's 2 places here that have the game pick 'em. And already – I think you'll get more Vikings bets, but that doesn't mean it's the right side. You have to be very careful. You have to check the house rules in that situation too, because a lot of times a change of venue is superseding a change of day. So like a lot of people with the Sugar Bowl, with that unfortunate incident down in New Orleans, they moved that day of game. So some books carried the action over. Some books said, we close it. It didn't happen on the day of the game. You have to rebet it. Believe me, the books want to keep all the bets, but you have these contingency rules written into the house rules. Wherever you're at, check your house rules if you've already bet it. If you haven't bet it, wait. I don't know it's going to move the line much. The game's almost a pick 'em, just perception-wise anyway. So no one's going to be 3. No one's going to, it's not going to flip it that much. It's not really going to affect the total. I mean, it's a different field. It's a different stadium. And yes, the noise and sound will be different, but it won't affect it as much as you think.
Okay. I thought maybe that would make Vikings are a road favorite right now, which I'm a little not that surprised, but I'm just I thought maybe would it go to 3, but you're saying no, there's no way. I know 3 is a magic number, but even 2.5, it wouldn't flip it to 2.5 even.
Well, that's what it opened in some places was Minnesota minus 2.5. It might get back to that, but the hesitation to go to 3 in a field goal game, especially if they got a lot of bets on the Rams and like their position, the books aren't going to give the bad guys and the Rhombus's and the parallelograms an opportunity to get them off of that game. They're not going to give them 3. The Rams are going to be a very teasable side the rest of the week, depending on how the games go. You take Baltimore down, you take Buffalo down, and then you key it all because it's the last game. You, Mr. Open Parlay guy, you leave that last leg, right? Look at this smile on your face. You know what I'm talking about. I know. Louis the Lip knows what you're talking about, too. That Rams number ain't getting to 3 because I can't give you a shot at 9 or 10 on a teaser. No way.
Yeah. I tell you, I think 10-point teasers this week. I would grab Houston plus 12.5.
Oh.
I would probably take Baltimore pick'em versus Pittsburgh plus 19.5. I mean, I would. And then Buffalo, right? Drop them down to plus 1.5. I mean, are the Bills really going to lose at home? I mean, that would be funny. It really would. But I don't know if Denver's going to go in there with a rookie quarterback and beat the Bills when everything is said and done. That's really a tough assignment. So how's that one not going to lose? Right?
Oh yeah. I don't think it is at all.
Yeah.
I don't think it is at all. Now, if you were to take sides on all of them, so you take Buffalo down, do you take Green Bay up or Philly down?
I tell you, I know Hurts practiced today, so that's good. So it looks like he's going to play. I'd probably take Green Bay up.
There you go.
I would take the 14.5. Yeah. I mean,
and I think you take the other dogs. I think you take Washington up, right? And you take Washington against Tampa, and I think you take the Rams up. I mean, I don't like to say like things can't lose, but when you look at the teasers, this is one of those times, and the power of the teasers is so strong in the first round, second round of the playoffs because the numbers are really tight. Like the numbers are good. Don't be surprised. There's only going to be 1 or 2 where like could really fall way off of it. Yeah, you and these 10-point teasers. I mean, this would be one where
I like the 10-pointers.
Let's go either way with a couple of the games, and it's going to fall in the middle. You can use totals with those. I mean, it opens up a world of opportunity for the teasers. Teasers can't end soon enough.
Would you dare throw Penn State in there? I mean, I'm rooting for Notre Dame. Yes. Obviously, you're rooting for Penn State, but is Notre Dame going to really win by 12 points, double digits?
No.
I don't know about that.
No.
Right? Penn State plus 11.5, maybe 12.5. It goes up to 2.5.
I think it's inside of a 10-point game either way.
Right.
I this is hopefully lives up to the billing. Like I am so excited for this game. You'll be doing a live show tomorrow down at Resorts World here in Vegas, but I'll be dressed head to toe in Penn State stuff if you're in town, come watch the show with us at Red Tail Resorts World. We're going to stay there and watch the game. There's kiosks. There's all kind of for betting purposes. I think it's going to be an excellent game. And I don't think there's going to be a lot of scoring. That one I like more with the 10-point teaser. So, yeah, I think you're right. I really hope, boy, I'm going to be completely for a week just beyond excited talking about Penn State stuff. If Penn State wins, I mean, give me another shot at Ohio State, baby. I will be. Oh, man. I can't wait. I'm going to go to Atlanta. I'm going to meet Vinny down in Atlanta. I'm going to need a driver who drives, very well. Apparently, Vinny drives well. I'll get Vinny down there. We're going to zip around, do a bunch of stuff, content, whatever we got to do. Vincenzo, coming to Atlanta. I'll meet you there. We got Joe coming up next. Did you look at the hockey board tonight? The game, Calgary and the Kings got canceled because of the fire and stuff.
Bumming on that one because I loved L.A. In the game. But
did you?
It is what it is. Well, I tell you, L.A., I erased all the numbers. I shouldn't have. It was dopey of me. But they're a great home team. Like, they don't lose at home.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah. Like, you would never I wouldn't ever say that, okay, give me the best home teams in the NHL. I wouldn't list L.A. Just whatever, give me Colorado and all the others, right? But L.A.'s like 25-4, something dopey at home. They don't lose at home. Very quietly. So, did like them. Chicago's up 2-1 over Colorado. If you want to, after 2, grab the Avalanche plus 165, 162. So
yeah, we're going to ask
Joe back. Yeah, Joe thoughts of that. We come back here on the grid.
So my team didn't win this weekend, but I still did with this app that's taking over the game. Sports Millions Pick'em lets you make quick and easy predictions. Pick your favorite players, go higher or lower, and you can still win big even if your team loses. Plus, the multiplier is insane. With just a few picks, you can win big money. So get on it. They've got a welcome bonus to help you start off your winning streak.
He will never repeat this year again as he gets older. It's not happening. That's not the way the world works. In the NFL, when you get older, your numbers dive. That's all there is to it.
Why did you play him for as long as you played him against Dallas if you weren't going to play him this week to break the record? I mean, you left him in that Dallas game forever.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
I know people are getting after Cole Anthony. Folks, it was a bang-bang play. You got to give Cole Anthony props for diving on a loose ball. Yeah, was it a little bit, reckless? Maybe. But at the end of the day, for people to go after Cole Anthony and think this is a dirty play, you don't know ball.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
I remember one time, I don't know if Kenny will remember this, I said put 100 on, I think I left it on a text. Put 100 on this horse that won, and then Kenny called me back later and goes, hey, I never got the text. And I'm like,
no.
Oh, yeah. Remember that, Kenny?
I would never stiff anybody. He texted me as they're loading into the gate, maybe. Like, it's too late.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
Statement from Giants president John Mara. Joe Shane and Brian Daboll will continue in their respective roles with the organization. As disappointing as the results of the season have been, Steve Tisch and I remain confident in the process that Joe and Brian have implemented.
The Giants, an absolute train wreck, and I love it.
The Early Line, only on Sport.
All right, welcome back in Game Live. Game day here on the grid. Checking out a little NHL, a little college football as well. Keeping a keen eye on the NBA. By the way, the Washington Wizards lead Philadelphia by 1. If you want to put a bet in, 3.5 minutes left, you get Philadelphia. Pick 'em. And Cleveland's starting to stretch out its lead against OKC, up 5 with 3.5 minutes left. So with that, though, let's talk a little pucks here. We mentioned Colorado down 1 against Chicago. Seems to be a pretty good betting opportunity getting I said the Canucks. Colorado down 1, getting plus 160 at Chicago. Let's get Joe Ben, my partner on weekends, Saturday and Sundays, get her thoughts on that. What's going on, Joe? How are you tonight?
I'm doing pretty good, and I do know it sounds so tempting to take Colorado right now, Scott, but you just can't do it. Trent Miner is in net. Now, this is his official NHL debut. He did come in relief in one of his games, stopping 12 of 13 shots by the Washington Capitals, but you look at him here in this one versus Chicago, and it's not a good spot, but also it's a really bad spot for the Colorado Avalanche. This is the first night of a back-to-back, and you look at the schedule in front of them. They have the Minnesota Wild tomorrow on deck, and then on Saturday they have to play at the Winnipeg Jets. I just think this is an absolute fade here, especially when you look at the Chicago Blackhawks and what they were able to do already versus them this season. They already got that 5-2 win. I wouldn't touch Colorado now, even though it seems tempting.
It sure does. It's good. We're glad you got in here right at the right time because we were talking about that game as we headed to the break. So thank you for that. Florida and the Utah Hockey Club tonight. Saw this number this morning and went, why is this so light? I mean, it was minus 125 this morning, and now it went way up. It's in a 150-ish range, depending on where you're shopping. Seems pretty obvious, Joe, that the Florida Panthers are going to win this hockey game and win it comfortably. What say you?
They better. They absolutely better, Dave. You look at this team, and this team has been struggling to score as of late. I can't believe their lack of goals. Looking at their last 6 games, they've only been able to put 10 goals up on the board. Now, this is a defense that is phenomenally strong. This defense is able to lock down so strong. And looking at the Utah Hockey Club, we know they've had those struggles on the scoring side of things as well. I would be looking here at Florida to get up in the first period. They know off of that loss versus the Colorado Avalanche that they need to come out strong to start this game and then lock down on the defensive side. They were able to go out strong versus Colorado, but they forgot to lock down, allowing Colorado to fight back, winning that one 3-1. So I'm looking here for Florida to go up in the first period. You lay a half of a goal here on the puck line in the first period, coming in at plus 162. But ultimately, I do think this game stays under the 5.5. If you want to look at Utah's team total under the 2.5, you're going to have to lay juice. I don't expect them to get 2 goals, let alone, I would say 1 goal here out of Utah, but I do expect Florida to come out just guns a-blazing versus Vejmelka. So the 5.5 is a little, it's going to be tough, but I do think we ultimately hit the under 5.5 in this one.
Vinny, do you have Scott's same game parlay? I just want to bring that up if you could show Joe, because it's somehow the opposite of Joe Madden play the total. So what now the people have to decide. Joe, do you like the anytime goal for Reinhart or the 1 point for Verhaeghe?
Ooh, both really solid. You look at Sam Reinhart here. If he's able to get on that power play, we know he's able to score. He's been so phenomenally strong for them this season and last on that power play. So I would take Sam Reinhart over Verhaeghe. I do like what Verhaeghe brings to the table as well. I definitely could see 2 points out of him. My fear with this total is Scott could be right, because this could be one where this is a 4-2 game, and then we see that empty netter. It definitely pushes us over that total, right? Like the fourth goal coming because of the empty netter.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's the same type of thing. I don't think it's going to be a natural 6. I think it'll be one of those empty netters. So, all right, so we're kind of on the same page there. 6.5, I would have gone under for sure, but I think we're going to get that 6th goal. How about a little college football tomorrow, Joe? You know, you and I did the Saturday shows all year long, and we don't get the chance to talk really too much with this one because it's it's a Thursday. So Notre Dame laying 1.5 against Mr. Sharapan's Penn State Nittany Lions. What do you like in the game?
Okay, I heard you guys are on opposite sides with this one, and I hate to roll in here and be on one side or the other, but I really am. I do think I'm going to jump on the same side as Scott with Notre Dame here to come out nice
There
and
you
strong.
go.
I'm sorry,
That's fine.
Dave. I apologize.
That's
I'll
okay.
have to work with
No.
them on Sunday, Dave. Like, I cannot come out here and tell
You're
him
right.
that I'm not
I get
betting
it.
the same way. You know, you get it. But I'm looking at a really strong game here. Both of these teams are going to come out so strong defensively. We know that front seven of Penn State's going to be all over Riley Leonard, which is going to force him out of the pocket. He's going to have to use his legs. And the key to success for both of these teams is going to be who can establish that run game, who can win in the trenches. And I do think Notre Dame, with what we've seen out of Riley Leonard, is a difference maker. If he can use his legs, if he can go over his rushing prop of 49.5, they will win this game. So I'm betting on Riley Leonard over 49.5 rushing yards. And then I'm going to look at the first half total. The first half total is coming in at 23.5. I do think it stays under this. Both of these defenses are going to come out so strong. We're going to see Notre Dame have an answer for Drew Aller. We're going to see Penn State really limit Riley Leonard in that first half. I think things open up a little bit in that second half, but Riley Leonard has to play like he did versus Georgia, in which he was able to put up 80 rushing yards, because we know that Jeremiah Love, he's not 100% in this one, and that is going to be a huge difference. He wasn't 100% in the last game either, you guys, but with him on the field, if he was 100%, I would alt the numbers here for Notre Dame. Without him 100%, I think they win this, but it's going to be a definitely hard battle here versus Penn State.
What about the other game, Joe? Ohio State, Texas. Yeah, I mean, really, like, this isn't going to be much of a game. The first game seems like it's going to be good. This one feels like favorite, right? Or how do you feel about this one?
It's got to be, Dave. And I tried to look at the lines to try to find us some value here. Alting them up to laying 9.5 is only plus 140. So I would rather just lay the 5.5, get them to win by 6 points. But Will Howard here, if he plays like he did in the last two games, the Buckeyes absolutely come out and dominate, win this game, and shut down Quinn Ewers. So I'm looking at Quinn Ewers under for his passing props. That secondary is way too strong.
Joe, great job as always. Enjoy the games, and then you and I will hook up on Saturday.
This was a team that you should have dominated. You've now lost 4 straight. You're heading into the playoffs, and you're searching for answers, not just in terms of your offensive line, but your quarterback now.
I just don't see this team peaking at the right time. It was almost like we were anointing Mike Tomlin as the best coach in the NFL 12 or 13 weeks in. Then once they got to the real competition and the attrition started to settle in, it's just not a good football team.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
It's going to be copy-paste. Books up, not good. Win total's a tick too low. Knock it right over. Make playoff price tick too juicy. Bang it out. Postseason comes around on a tee. Knock their heads off.
I don't think the Steelers organization just makes a move to make a move. They have to have, it's like being in the book. You have to know what you're going to move the line to.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Statement from Giants president John Mara. Joe Shane and Brian Daboll will continue in their respective roles with the organization. As disappointing as the results of the season have been, Steve Tisch and I remain confident in the process that Joe and Brian have implemented.
The Giants, an absolute train wreck, and I love it.
The early line, only on SportsGrid. Just 3 games left in this historic college football season. Thursday, Notre Dame.
Notre Dame is definitely one of the top teams in the nation.
Clash with Penn State. Friday, Ohio State looks to slow down the Horns, with the Buckeyes favored to top Texas.
You know what I see? 2 similar plays? Jackpot. Cherry.
Follow along for every play and every bet with in-game live game day, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Live, Game Day here on the grid. Again, thanks, Joe Madden, joining us. Joe and I work the Saturday shifts from, depending on the weekend, generally between 3:30 and 7:30 or so, 8 o'clock, depending on the games, and then Sunday as well, right around that same time. So always enjoy talking to her. NBA, Dave, down to the wire they go. Cadavers and OKC Thunder. They're in a little review. It's supposed to be OKC's ball, but Cleveland is challenging. So they got to figure that out. Score of the game, 125-122. Minute 19 left. Cleveland up 3. And like you said, it might be OKC ball. It's supposed to be, but Cleveland was pretty adamant that there wasn't a foul on them. But we'll see with that. Pistons by 19 over the Nets. No big deal there. Philadelphia, 105-102. 11 seconds left. 106-103. I don't know how that flipped. But 106-103, 11 seconds left. Philadelphia, pick them. I know the Wizards came back and they tied us, so give them credit for doing that. But, boy, you talk about a good betting opportunity. I'll take my chances this dopey Wizards team doesn't win on the road, even against Philadelphia.
It was a good betting opportunity. Yep. And the Knicks are up 10 right now. Third quarter coming to a close. So that 9.5 was looking good right now.
Pacers won by 16, so they covered the 15.5.
Yep, but it didn't even get to 250. Wow, that's surprising. I thought that was going to be a little bit higher. What are the
well? Those you know what those Bulls over-unders have been through the roof. They've been scoring a lot and giving up a lot, but they're going under. They're 10-3 under now their last 13 games. Not because all of a sudden they're playing defense, but they're posting these numbers in the 240s. It's ridiculous. So this ended up being, 239 to 242. Imagine scoring 242 points in the game and having to go under. I mean, how crazy is that? Right? I mean, how crazy. You got the over in this game, right? And you hear, okay, Pacers win 129-113. 129-113. Oh, game went way over, right? And you start doing the calculations, and it's around 245.5 or so, whatever it was today, right? And then you're like, wait a minute, 129, 120. It's 242. How's that possible?
That's under. That's right.
That's under.
So they're coming down to the end, 125-122 Cleveland. 119 left. There's a challenge. You're going to decide whatever's going to come out of it right now. And I'm going through the leading scorers for Cleveland. It's not Donovan Mitchell. If I give you another guess, can you name another guy? Who it would be?
I don't think it's Jared Allen. But Jared Allen?
Jared Allen.
He's had a good game. It is. He's had a good game. He's had a big-time score.
12 rebounds and 6 assists. He's having the game.
Yeah.
I mean,
I've
all
got
the
over here on the
starters,
screen.
Yeah, Mitchell's got the lowest number of points. I think that's one of the strengths of Cleveland, right? It doesn't have to be Donovan Mitchell every night. He's the lowest scoring starter, along with Wade. Mobley has 19. Allen has 25. Garland has 18.
What does Mitchell have?
Strauss,
12?
Bench, 17. He has 11 points. That's it.
See, they
3
won
of
the
16
battle, but they're
from the field.
Yeah, that's it. See, Cleveland's going to win the battle, but they're going to lose the war. This is why no one takes Cleveland seriously, because Donovan Mitchell, every big game, he chokes. You're not going to win an NBA championship getting scores like you had tonight. You get somewhere along the line, Mitchell has got to earn his paycheck, and he just doesn't.
Whoa!
He did it with Utah, and he does it with Cleveland.
Oh,
and you got a big game like this, and he disappears. Is it any surprise whatsoever that he has 11 in a game in which they're going to score 130 points? The best player, the highest paid player, has got 11 stinking points. That's the problem with Cleveland, because they're led by Donovan.
I see that as a strength. The guy can't be the guy every time. Like he's
never the guy.
Possible.
He's never the guy in a big time
what are you
spot.
talking
Never.
About? Come on.
He disappears. He's like my wife in the kitchen. You can't find
Whoa.
her. Forget about it. It's not happening.
Always catching strays. Miss Wetzel always catching strays on this show. Please.
I mean, it's just,
saw her there last week. I saw her there last week when I FaceTimed you. She was. I
If
saw
you
her.
did, it was to get something I cooked. I mean, it's just, he doesn't cook. He doesn't cook in the big games.
This was a team that you should have dominated. You've now lost 4 straight. You're heading into the playoffs and you're searching for answers, not just in terms of your offensive line, but your quarterback now.
I just don't see this team peaking at the right time. It was almost like we were anointing Mike Tomlin as the best coach in the NFL 12 or 13 weeks in. Then once they got to the real competition and the attrition started to settle in, it's just not a good football team.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
It's going to be copy-paste. Books up, not good. Win total's a tick too low. Knock it right over. Make playoff price tick too juicy. Bang it out. Postseason comes around on a tee. Knock their heads off.
I don't think the Steelers organization just makes a move to make a move. They have to have, it's like being in the book. You have to know what you're going to move the line to.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Statement from Giants president John Mara. Joe Shane and Brian Daboll will continue in their respective roles with the organization. As disappointing as the results of the season have been, Steve Tisch and I remain confident in the process that Joe and Brian have implemented.
The Giants, an absolute train wreck, and I love it.
The early line, only on SportsGrid. Just 3 games left in this historic college football season. Thursday, Notre Dame.
Notre Dame is definitely one of the top teams in the nation.
Clash with Penn State. Friday, Ohio State looks to slow down the Horns, with the Buckeyes favored to top Texas.
You know what I see? 2 similar plays? Jackpot, cherry.
For a big man.
Follow along for every play and every bet with in-game live game day, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Live, Game Day here on the Grid. So here's the deal. I like Cleveland's head coach. Who's that, Kenny Atkinson? He does the old Brooklyn Nets head coach. So he did something smart. I think it was him. They're up 7, right? OKC missed the desperation heave 3 with about 20 seconds left. They miss it. They press. And instead of causing a turnover, maybe being fouled, Cleveland calls a timeout to do the wise thing. So here's the situation. 13 seconds left, down 7. Does OKC foul? If they foul, then if you got 250, 252, 253, you still got a shot. If they just say, what the fudge, we're down 7, 13 seconds left, ball game over, then it's going to go under. So you're at the fate of the OKC head coach, who's a good head coach too. You give up down 7, 13 seconds left?
I'm watching the way they're reacting on the bench. I think they foul. I think they're going to foul. Yeah.
I think they're going to try and make the steal, but if they don't get the steal, then it could be like, all right. But
if you're coaching, what would you tell them to do? We don't get the steal, we foul. 13 seconds left.
I'd make sure I fouled dopey Donovan Mitchell. Put him at the free throw line. They're not fouling. I didn't think they would. Yep. They went for the steal. If the dopey head coach doesn't call the timeout, it's probably a 10-second violation. You got a shot. But he did the wise thing. Not many times you can count on the head coach doing the smart thing, and it burns you. 129, 122. Game goes over the original number of, 230 or so, but some of those 255s and 256s and everything else. All right, so does this change your mind any? I don't know where you were on the Cleveland Cadavers. Are they coming out of the East? Does this impress you to the point where you think they could actually win it all? Or is this just a good regular season win?
I've been talking about the Cleveland Cavaliers since the start of the season with that winning streak. I love Cleveland. I think, listen, you said it, the way the Celtics shoot, they have a couple bad shooting nights, and they lose 2 games in a series, or Cleveland can at least hold court at home. Why can't they beat them? They're not going to face them until the final series. If the Cleveland just continues this, which I think they have every reason to continue this, to get the 1 seed, right? The Celtics don't care to be the 1 seed at all. It doesn't feel that way. I mean, they got a big lead on them already. So, I don't know. I think this is again, there's no statement games in January. But this is one of those ones that are just continually finding ways to win games. I think they spread it out really well. I'm okay with Mitchell not having to be the guy every night, especially in the regular season. Yes, it would be nice to see him do it once, twice, a couple times in the playoffs. But the team feels like they're together. I think they have a shot. I'd put them in the Eastern Conference Finals today.
All right, knowing they have home field advantage, and right now they got a 6-game lead. It's amazing. They have a 6-game lead in the East, and OKC's got a 7-game, well, 6 now because of this loss, in the loss column anyway, in the West. I mean, the number 1 seeds are almost locked up. So forget who you think's going to win. Celtics, Cleveland, Eastern Conference Finals, Cadavers home field advantage. What's the series line?
Wait, them Eastern Conference Finals?
Yeah, Cleveland versus Boston. Cleveland with the home field advantage, home court advantage. Celtics are still favored, I bet.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, like I said, how am I going to – I can't make – do you know, I mean, how much money you would take if we made the Celtics the dog? I mean, they'd be calling you, they'd be calling the kids, your wife. Check on this guy because we just took $1 zillion on the Celtics at plus money to win the series. We couldn't make the Celtics the dog. No way. But I mean, it would be a lot smaller. Be a lot smaller.
140? 130?
Yeah. Whereas if they have home court, they're over $2, right?
Right.
I mean, because you figure them to split. If they split, they automatically become minus 160, minus 180, minus 240, anywhere in between, depending on how the state of condition of the players. It's really hard to make a number now in January than, say, May, whenever we're going to get that Eastern Conference Final. But
all right.
I like
Let me
Cleveland.
ask you this.
You keep calling him dopey and Donovan Mitchell. You're besmirching his name and his ability. I'm not buying it.
I will say this. If you needed a reason to root for them, wouldn't it be great for Cleveland to win an NBA championship without LeBron James? Oh, that would be great.
Look at the smile on your face. Huh?
Yeah.
Huh?
No more LeBron is our savior. No more, this, that. It's always going back to LeBron. No more LeBron. Let me ask you this. All right, Celtics are a 2-1 favorite to win the NBA championship right now. OKC is next in line at plus 280. Cleveland is 10-1 as the third choice. Does that change somewhat after tonight's game?
How is it not single digits? I mean, it's not single digits because nobody's betting them. Right? So if you think, like if we're running the joint, we're trying to go get Cleveland money. What I'm really trying to do is trying to get all the Nick money. Anybody believes that anyone else in the East can actually do it. I would adjust the price a little bit because they are going to be, barring a major disaster, the number 1 seed. And you get the number 1 seed in home court, you got a shot.
10-1 odds. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell you, the problem with the East is like there's dangerous teams in the East. I don't think there's dangerous teams in the West. I really don't. Like Milwaukee healthy, Giannis, Lillard, Middleton. Boy, that's a good team. The Knicks healthy, Brunson, and Cat. A good team. There's like a lot of teams that don't have all their players, but if they did, boy, that would be, that's a, could I see Milwaukee beating them? Yeah, I could see them, I could see them beating
yeah,
Cleveland.
maybe. And Orlando,
Philadelphia,
don't dismiss Orlando.
Embiid,
Yeah,
Orlando, right?
I'm not ready to say them. No, but I mean the Western Conference. You don't think anybody can go beat OKC? You don't think Denver's going to get right? You don't think Dallas is going to get healthy? Memphis is the team for me that's playing sneaky good that I think has gotten some scar tissue over the past few years and put together some experience. And then, I mean, I don't know what's wrong with the T-Wolves. The T-Wolves feel faulty to me. We're going to get Eric on to ask him about the T-Wolves. They're a mess. They're a mess.
Yeah, they really are. That trade has not worked out. I thought it would, but it has not worked out. And AE is like great. He's really turning into like a great, like Anthony Edwards, a great player.
Yeah.
Phoenix, completely healthy Phoenix.
Well, how would we know? We haven't seen it, right? We can't. I'd love to see.
You know what I would do? If I was
Clippers.
Cleveland, who's been the biggest pain in the butt for the Boston Celtics over the last 4 or 5 seasons, right? Miami. And why?
Jimmy Butler.
For the most part, Jimmy B. You call up, Cleveland calls up, knowing they got to get through Boston. You call up Miami. What's it going to take? And if they added Jimmy B to Cleveland, now you're talking. That's the move. Could you convince him to go to Cleveland, though? Good luck on that.
Wants to win one more time. He'll go anywhere.
Yeah.
He's making $48 million a year. Go to Cleveland.
Yeah. You don't have to live there. Play there. Go home. All right. We're coming up. Dan Stewart coming up next here on the Grid.
This was a team that you should have dominated. You've now lost 4 straight. You're heading into the playoffs and you're searching for answers, not just in terms of your offensive line, but your quarterback now.
I just don't see this team peaking at the right time. It was almost like we were anointing Mike Tomlin as the best coach in the NFL 12 or 13 weeks in. Then once they got to the real competition and the attrition started to settle in, it's just not a good football team.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
It's going to be copy-paste. Books up, not good. Win total's a tick too low. Knock it right over. Make playoff price tick too juicy. Bang it out. Postseason comes around on a tee. Knock their heads off.
I don't think the Steelers organization just makes a move to make a move. They have to have, it's like being in the book. You have to know what you're going to move the line to.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Statement from Giants president John Mara. Joe Shane and Brian Daboll will continue in their respective roles with the organization. As disappointing as the results of the season have been, Steve Tisch and I remain confident in the process that Joe and Brian have implemented.
The Giants, an absolute train wreck, and I love it.
The early line, only on SportsGrid. Just 3 games left in this historic college football season. Thursday, Notre Dame.
Notre Dame is definitely one of the top teams in the nation.
Clash with Penn State. Friday, Ohio State looks to slow down the Horns, with the Buckeyes favored to top Texas.
You know what I see? 2 similar plays. Jackpot. Cherry.
Follow along for every play and every bet with in-game live game day, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back in Game Live, Game Day here on the grid. Scott and Dave, although Dave had to take off, so I'll take it home the rest of the way. I will real quickly. I will say, Dave and I talking about the NBA odds. Cleveland down to 9-1. Just as Dave and I suggested that they should be less than 10-1, they're down to 9-1. Oh, that's funny. So thank you, FanDuel. I'll check it. Or my bill is in the mail. With that, let us bring in the guy who has probably shekel or two on things tonight. Mr. Cam Stewart takes over top of the hour. What's going on, Cam? How are you, bud?
Scott, I'm good. Congratulations on the Black Cloud play last night.
Yes,
it's funny
Vegas.
Because when Vegas went up by 2, they actually offered a +3.5 -145 in one of my book. I'm like, this is perfect. It's like 1.5 loses, 2.5 and 3.5. So I lost on the +1.5, but you win. It was actually good. That's the good thing about betting on bad teams. Sometimes I noticed something, Scott, on FanDuel Ontario. They love to give you that extra goal, and they'll jack up the juice a little bit. But in hockey, it's not soccer. Like, that's a huge goal. Difference between 4-2 and 5-2. I don't mind paying an extra, 20, 30 cents for that stuff if you're going to win a bet. So I find that really interesting for people who can get that book. The hockey numbers are really good. Live right now, Scott, I'd take a shot with Vancouver. They're tied with Washington right now, and they're +125. Actually, it'll be more. They're going to the box for a penalty, but ever since the first period, they've outplayed them, and they're out shooting them 25-11. So we'll see what happens here as Washington goes to the power play. But it's golf week, Scott. First full field event in Hawaii. Last week, Hideki Matsuyama set a record -35, blowing away the competition. I remember I have a guy in second, Scott. He's -32, and he doesn't even win the tournament. Like, when have you ever heard that before? Because the winner is -35. Me and Carver both had the second and third place guys. We do that a lot in golf, but hopefully we'll clip a winner this week. We're at Walleye in Hawaii. Very beautiful. It's not that hard when the winds don't pick up, Scott. Very short, too, just over 7,000 yards. So I'm not expecting -35, but I'm expecting something in the 20s this week to win the tournament. So these guys start off easy in Hawaii, and then they go to the mainland for the American Express. I think they head to California, and then we have the California swing after the Hawaii swing.
All right, so who do we got? It's Sony Open, right? That's been around for a long time. I know that. We've mentioned that name many, many times, right? So who do we got winning this week?
Yeah, Scott, I think it's off the top of my head the 4th longest tournament in the same place in the PGA Tour. So, it's got a lot of history. So let's go right now. Carver and I had some of the same picks when I did the show today, but we're going to start things off right now. This is my first-round leader picks, and we're going to get off to a hot start. We hit Tom Hoagie last week. JT Poston, he always delivers, the postman at 50-1. Chris Kirk, a notorious fast starter, also a winner of this event in the past at 60-1. Harry Hall, Scott, interesting player. The guy's from Britain, good wind player, also went to UNLV, so he's played the best of both worlds. A really, really solid golfer right now. Top 10 machine recently. I'm going to ride the hot hand at 60. Andrew Novak at 75. A little Canadian content with Adam Svensson and another former winner, Patton Kizzire, first-round leader, 110-1. So if we can hit one of those, we'll be in really good shape for the rest of the tournament. You know me, Scott. Instead of taking the money out of the bank, I'll just roll it into something else. Maverick McNeely, a lot of people's hot pick this week. I'm worried a lot of good golf cappers are on him this week. I'm not necessarily a good golf capper, but a lot of the pros are on this guy, and I like them too. He checks every single box. Austin Eckroat, one of the best young players people don't know about. You'll know about him this year, 40-1. Kurt Kitayama, another UNLV product here. Great win player as well, 48-1. Sepp Straka, he's my guy at 50-1. Hoagie sandwich, Scott. Me and you, I'm inviting you out for lunch. We'll have a hoagie sandwich and chase it down with a couple of Jaeger bombs. How's that? Liquid lunch. Me, you, Tom Hoagie and Steven Jaeger. Yeah, hoagies and Jaeger bombs, 80-1. Steven Jaeger plays really well on short courses. He's 80-1. Now we go with the top 10s. Corey Connors, a little bit of Canadian content. What does he do, Scott? He finishes in the top 10 a lot. Winning is a little bit of a problem, plus 180. Tom Kim, Carver likes him to win. I'll take him top 10 at almost 2-1. Taylor Pendrith, another talented Canadian at plus 175. The Belgian, Thomas Dietrich, almost won last week. Top 20, plus 260. And Scott, a couple of guys we could relate to. Old and beat down, but still can get it around. Matt Kuchar, plus 130, top 40. And Patton Kizzire, as I mentioned before, top 40. All plus money at plus 150. So that's what we're doing there, Scott. Hopefully we'll have a good time in this tournament, make some money. We actually made shekels last week. Didn't have Matsuyama, but that's the key with the top 10s, the matchups, the first-round leaders. If you hit a first-round leader, it pays for the tournament, and you'll come back. It doesn't matter what happens, right? So that's the good news. Hard to do, though. 136 guys teeing off. Only one guy could be the leader. But I also do look for a book that has a top 5 or a top 6, so you can kind of chop it in half. Like say your guy is -8 with 2 other guys, you get paid, but they just give you a percentage of the payment. You don't want to just have that guy, you know what I mean? Like I would rather have money than no money, you know what I mean? So I know sometimes they're gonna saw it, but you have to do an each way bet because so many times there's guys 4-way tie, 3-way tie, 2-way tie. So you got to do that.
Yeah, that is like FanDuel. I'm pretty sure because I looked this up. FanDuel considers it a loss. Let's just say you got $10 on a guy that finishes in the top 5 at 5-1, and there's 5 guys at 5-1. Well, they're going to take 4/5 of that $10 bet and say you lost, and they're only going to pay you off on $2. So
that's unacceptable. That's unacceptable to me. So always look at the rules, and that's the problem with golf. A lot of books and for me, I have to have a really good book. Like I usually go to the European ones because they have a lot of golf and tennis, and they won't screw you around like that. Like it's one of those things you need to take back. You need to not get burned on something like that.
Yeah, it should be like 4/5 of that is a push. You should get your money back and then get paid off on only the 20%. Yes, that makes sense. But you don't consider the other, $8 losses. That doesn't make any sense.
Think about it, Scott. There's a million guys in the tournament. Like I did a good thing by picking the top 5 and top 6 guy, right? They have different segments. In the books that I use, they have winner with top 8 for guys that are over 100-1. So we'll do like a golf seminar one day when I have more time to explain it. But it's a really fun sport to bet because there's a lot of different ways you can do it. So that's what I like this week, Scott. Hopefully we can hit a winner.
Give me a guy like last year. It was Eric Cole. That didn't work out too well. But give me a guy who's going to be.
Sometimes
he came on late. Give me a guy that we're going to bet every week that's 40, 50, 60, whatever to 1, and we're just going to say, you know what, in 40 tournaments or so, he's going to win one time. He's a young guy, So do we have a guy like that this year?
I'll give you 2 guys. I'll give you Luke Clanton. I have him also. I did a show with some other guys from other networks. A lot of them like him to win this week. Just too many people were on him. Luke Clanton, he's 45-1. And I think Sepp Straka, he's 50-1 this week. He's a top 10 machine, but he'll always be there, Scott, especially in the top 5 and 10 markets.
All right, there you go. Cam and Gabe, top of the hour. Cam, great job, man. We'll do it again tomorrow, next week, actually.
Next week, that's right.
This was a team that you should have dominated. You've now lost 4 straight. You're heading into the playoffs, and you're searching for answers, not just in terms of your offensive line, but your quarterback now.
I just don't see this team peaking at the right time. It was almost like we were anointing Mike Tomlin as the best coach in the NFL 12 or 13 weeks in. Then once they got to the real competition and the attrition started to settle in, it's just not a good football team.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
It's going to be copy-paste. Books are, not good. Win total's a tick too low. Knock it right over. Make playoff price tick too juicy. Bang it out. Postseason comes around on a tee. Knock their heads off.
I don't think the Steelers organization just makes a move to make a move. They have to have, it's like being in the book. You have to know what you're going to move the line to.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Statement from Giants president John Mara. Joe Shane and Brian Daboll will continue in their respective roles with the organization. As disappointing as the results of the season have been, Steve Tisch and I remain confident in the process that Joe and Brian have implemented.
The Giants, an absolute train wreck, and I love it.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid. Just 3 games left in this historic college football season. Thursday, Notre Dame.
Notre Dame is definitely one of the top teams in the nation.
Clash with Penn State. Friday, Ohio State looks to slow down the Horns, with the Buckeyes favored to top Texas.
You know what I see? 2 similar plays? Jackpot, cherry.
Follow along for every play and every bet with in-game live game day, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Live. Game Day here on the grid. Wrapping up shop here. I've still got time to put a couple of plays in, that is for sure. So, again, thanks to Cam Stewart, though, with all the golf plays that he has. No doubt he'll be going over those later on tonight with Gabe at top of the hour. So we'll take you over the next three here on the grid. So, NBA, we got a few other games getting underway and a few more that have just started. So, with that, we were remiss and we didn't give our producer's pick, which did hit last night, even though Golden State lost. They had Steph Curry over 25 points. He got 31, so that was a winner. Cha-ching, cha-ching. So tonight, where are we going tonight, fellas? Over 24.5 points, Victor Wembanyama, who, boy, they showed him in the warm. He is really thin. I know he's putting on some weight, but, man, he is really thin. So that game is underway. It's just underway. About midway through the first quarter, I will tell you, Wembanyama right now has there we go. Hold on a second. He's got 7 points, so it's up to 28.5. So you got to have to bump that 24.5 up to 28.5. So it needs 29 points now if you want to put it in. Listen, good little start, 7 points. Should be a high-scoring game. It's Denver. It's tied at 13 early on. So if he's going to get 25, I'm sure he's going to get 29. No, he's got 7 already, off to a halfway decent start. So I'd be okay with that if you liked Wembanyama tonight. Let me see, just to make sure, is the Joker playing? Because there was some doubt about whether he was going to play for Denver tonight. They're leading the Clippers 55-38. He did not play. Wow. All right, he was sick. He's been like legitimately sick. It's amazing. Every time you hear someone say sick, it's automatically is it COVID related, right? But they're saying no, it's not COVID related. So maybe he's just sick. No matter. They're up 17, 55-38. Let me throw a couple of finals at you. Pistons blew out the Nets. Boy, Brooklyn is just awful. 113-98. You lose by 15 at home to the Pistons. You know you're bad. Knicks did win. They ended up covering the spread, 112-98. Remember, that was down. They opened up as about 11.5-point favorite, so they ended up covering their original number, led by only 4 at halftime, was down to 9.5. Dave and I suggested hop on now because it's not going to get much lower than that. The Raptors are just awful, and they ended up winning by 14. So Anthony Towns, a double-double, 27 points, 13 rebounds. Nice win there. 76ers didn't cover the original number, but they did win 109-106. Butler with, not Jimmy Butler, with 26 for Washington. Did Embiid play tonight? He did not. No, he's been out for a little while. So, and Paul George didn't play either. So 2 best players didn't play for Philadelphia. They still ended up winning. When that was down to pick 'em, boy, that was a good bet. The chances of the Wizards beating anybody, let alone on the road, it's just, that was a gift from the Vegas gods, getting them to come back into that game. So they ended up winning by 6. Pacers blew out the Bulls by 16, 129-113, and then the Cadavers by 7 in the game of the night, 129-122 over OKC. So let's take a peek at some of the in-game numbers here for the games that are in progress. Portland is crushing. Boy, another dead team is in New Orleans. Thanks for not showing up there, Zion. Didn't play tonight after playing last night. They're down 111-83. That's unbettable. Nuggets laying 8.5 against the Clippers, up 17 without Kawhi. That's a halfway decent number. Especially the home team. I know they were dogs in this one, and I know it's no joker. I might be inclined to lay that. I know most people in-game lines still bet the unders or bet the underdogs, but you want to give me a 17-point lead at home, and all I have to do is lay 8.5, take it out a team that doesn't have its best player? I'd be inclined to do that. And then Spurs 19-15 now over the Bucks. Hockey, we got still the Blackhawks might be doing it tonight against Colorado. How about that? 3-1. I don't know if that was an empty netter or not, but 2.5 minutes left. So Chicago's going to win. Good job by Joe Madden, who told us to stay off Colorado. Not that the goaltender was bad tonight. Letting up only 3 goals, that's not bad. Vancouver, Washington still tied at 1. And then we got Florida dropping the first puck here in about 15 minutes. Do like them, but I will say that does got sucker written all over it. Big play of the night, under Virginia, California. That is the play. as we always play under in Virginia games. And Kansas was losing earlier tonight to, and they still are, at the half, 42-36 Kansas, double-digit favorite, laying only 4.5. I like that. And I would also go with the under, 155.5. They'll play much better defense second half. You watch. Talk to you tomorrow, folks.